Hi there, I'm Greg with Sonnax, and here today to introduce a great product for all of your RFE builds, and that is our heavy-duty inner retainer housing. Now what's unique about this housing is that it has these metal inserts that fit down into the housing where the overdrive clutches are known to dig in and wear the housing. That can cause the clutches to stick a little bit and wear, and it also causes the housings to need to be replaced. And what we've done is we've taken an OE inner retainer, we machine away the inside and a little bit on the sides that allows us to put these metal inserts in here. And the metal inserts just simply drop right down in here, and once they're installed, you can just build this up with any clutch that you choose, and it will absolutely stop all wear of the housing because the clutches are now contacting the metal inserts. So this is great for your heavy duty builds, and it also has value for all of your RFE builds, and that's especially true because it comes in two different versions. So we have the new housing that goes through its machining process, where we remove the material and make room for the inserts, but we're also doing a remanufactured version. So we have a used inner retainer, goes through an inspection process, and then we plug it into the same manufacturing process as the new one, where we go in and remove the material. And then the kit comes with the same steel inserts, so it has all the features and benefits of the other kit. It's just available at a different price point. And that price point will actually make it competitive with a new inner retainer housing that you might be buying from the dealer today. So for that same basic price point that you're already spending, you can get much more value and eliminate all this clutch wear going forward. So everyone that works on these RFEs has seen the wear, and what we've heard is about 25% of them actually need replacement when they come into the shop, and we expect that number to grow over time. And this one is pretty typical wear. It's bad enough to where the clutches could get snagged on there and not release as when the clutch is off, and that can actually contribute to overdrive clutch failure. So yet another problem we have to look out for when we're talking about overdrive clutch durability. And putting in a new housing isn't going to prevent that for the long haul. Only the Sonnax kit will take care of that. And then show you an example of how bad it can get. This one looks like the mice have been in here chewing on it, and it's worn out really bad. The higher power, higher torque applications are going to wear the worst like this, and that's obvious. But there's also something else that we've identified that's going on here. So it's not just the rotational torque of the clutch plate in the housing. As it's going down the road, it's also oscillating around a little bit, and that can be due to incremental bushing wear and other slight misalignments, and that's why we tend to see this problem get worse as these units get more and more miles on them, and after they've been rebuilt once or twice or whatever. So it's that oscillating, moving around there, that happens when you're going down the road in fifth and sixth gears when the overdrive clutch is on, and that's why we don't see the same kind of wear in the underdrive clutch, which is further down here, because that's off in fifth and sixth gears. So, like I said, it's not something to be taken lightly. It can actually contribute to durability problems over time, but we got you covered here with this really simple kit to install, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Okay, so these inserts are a little bit different, but it's really easy to incorporate into your build. And the changes start after you put in the underdrive overdrive plate and you're going to install the tapered snap ring. And what we want to watch for is to make sure that the gap of the tapered snap ring straddles one of the castellations. And you can see right here we have that where the end gap of the snap ring is right here, right over one of the castellations. So we have 12 castellations, so we have 12 steel inserts, but one of them, this one here with this notch, is the one that goes right here where there's the gap in the snap ring. And then from there, you just start putting the rest of the inserts in. Now, I expect that this really shouldn't add more than a minute to your typical build. These go in, they stay in place. And the biggest problem you might have is if the underdrive overdrive plate is like pushed over to one side, it might need a little bit of centering. And of course you want to make sure your snap ring is fully seated back there. And these little tabs right here actually tuck behind the underdrive plate. And then at the top, the snap ring and the reverse plate actually hold it in place at the top. So these inserts are held securely against the housing, and there's no way that they're going to like fall in or interfere with the overdrive clutches. And then because we removed material between the castellations as well, where these inserts go in, that means the gap between the inserts is exactly the same as it was originally, and that means you can use any clutch you want and it'll fit right in here, easy to incorporate into your build. So now I'd like to share a little bit about how we got to where we did with this whole system. And over the years there's been several attempts at solving this problem, and one is a steel inner retainer, and we looked at that as well. But the reality is that is just way too heavy to have it spinning around inside the transmission, and that'll affect the rest of the overall systems inside the transmission. So that's out the door. And then there's been attempts at billet aluminum, and I have an example of one of those here. And the thing with the billet 6061, we know that that's softer than the high silicon cast material that the OE is made out of, which is the same kind of stuff they make engine pistons out of. So then there's the thought of anodizing the billet to make it more wear resistant. So with all these options out there and under consideration, and a problem that occurs over tens of thousands of miles in months or years, we really needed a way to test and verify what the differences were between these options. So to answer that question, we created this machine. And the machine basically takes a tab from one of the clutch plates, and we mount it out here, and then we actually take the housing and rotate it back and forth. And you can see, we can do a little bit of wear or a lot of wear. Really whatever we want, we can dial it in and create the amount of wear we want in, hundreds of thousands of cycles in just a few hours in an afternoon. So now we had a tool that allows us to do all this testing, and the results were pretty interesting. We verified that the cast OE was the toughest solution that was out there, but one of the most interesting things I learned was that the anodizing, it did help, but it was a really tiny amount, and we're talking about 1 or 2%. So while it makes a difference, it's not going to make the kind of difference that's going to prevent this from being an issue in a vehicle over the long haul. So with all that done, the next question was, well, what can we really do to solve this problem? And that's where the idea for the steel inserts came along. And with the steel inserts, we were able to do the testing. And the interesting thing is here, there's nothing really exciting or dramatic to show with the steel insert because it didn't wear, right? We ran it through the same test and we have no wear. So, then we cranked up the test pressure, double the time. And, you'd be lucky if you can even see a witness mark there. So we've really proven that we could stop the wear. From there, we went to in-vehicle testing, racked up all kinds of miles, put it in a race truck, and we got the same results. So that gets us to where we are today, and that is a inner retainer housing for the RFE that will not wear out. And it's available to you at 2 different price points. 100% new content for when the budget supports it. And otherwise, we have this remanufactured version that will be price competitive with the new OE housing, but with a whole bunch more value in it. So if you have any questions about these 2 kits or any of our other RFE parts, check out our website or give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.